I think we're going to get ready to get started here. I'm just making sure I turned on the recording. I don't, yes, I did. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, good morning to everyone. I know people are still hopping on, but we'll go ahead and get the party rolling. Welcome to Navigating Pathways and Braiding Funding for Registered Apprenticeship. My name is Maria Heidkamp. I'm the Chief Innovation and Policy Officer at the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, which has been leading the New Jersey Apprenticeship Technical Assistance Collaborative, or NJATAC, effort. Today, we will explore pathways into registered apprenticeship programs and opportunities to braid funding to support registered apprenticeships. Before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. Next slide, please. Thank you. Um, Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. I'd like to invite everyone to introduce yourself by sharing your name, role, and organization, which you can put in the chat. We'd also like to ask if you could add something you're hoping to learn from today's session. Next slide, please. This webinar is being recorded, assuming I did that correctly, which I think I did, and it will be available on the New Jersey ATAC webpage. My colleague from AIR, Darcy, will drop the URL in the chat. If you do not wish to appear on the recording, of course, you are welcome to keep your camera off. Most of us are used to Zoom meetings, but we want to remind you to please remain on mute when you are not speaking. We also encourage you to turn your camera on if you're comfortable doing so. Make sure that your chat is set to everyone for questions and comments related to the content. And if you run into any technical issues, you can message Darcy Simon or email her at dsimon@air.org. Next slide, please. The New Jersey Apprenticeship Technical Assistance Collaborative is a statewide initiative that supports technical assistance for the growth and expansion of registered apprenticeship programs. The initiative is a partnership between the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, American Institutes for Research, and Jobs for the Future, with the financial support and expertise of the New Jersey Department of Labor. There are at least one NJ Department of Labor staff on this webinar to provide additional information and answer questions that may arise. And good morning, Jim. I'm not sure if you have colleagues here too, but nice to see you. Next slide. Oh, maybe that same slide. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to introduce. I'm joined by AIR colleagues today, Chris Herzog and Amy Beller, who will be facilitating our session. And I'm going to turn things over to Chris to take it on from here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Maria. Welcome everyone. Today in this session, we're going to briefly share some of the background on the New Jersey ATAC project. We'll talk about some different pathways into registered apprenticeship aligned to educational opportunities and understand the braided funding options available for registered.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to yours. And
Yes, yeah, because you go like that.
We
So we
could
don't have to
put
do
our microphones on. Those that are in the audience, that would be terrific. And then finally, today we'll open the floor for discussion and answer your questions before we wrap up. So next slide, please. We are excited to share more about two new resources that have been developed by the NJ ATAC project today. Our hope is that these tools will support you and your teams in deepening your understanding of quality apprenticeship programs and hopefully to help open opportunities for collaboration to connect students and apprentices to employment throughout this proven training model. Before we get to these resources, I want to briefly share some context about our approach to developing these tools. Next slide, please. A key part of the vision for NJ ATAC throughout the course of the last couple of years has been to bring additional partners to the conversation about registered apprenticeship. We've developed a number of training tools and resources to really help deepen understanding about apprenticeship itself and to support collaborative, strategic conversations around program development and implementation. Framing registered apprenticeship as a pathway-oriented model really highlights the flexibility of the model to meet a broad range of industry workforce needs and job seekers who may be at varying stages of their career journeys. The pathways can really be used to develop connections or on and off ramps between education and training programs and employment, and really help to support lifelong learning and progression to family sustaining wages. Programs are more sustainable with shared investment of support and resources from a variety of different partners, which could be developed through sector partnerships. Braided funding is an effective strategy to build and sustain quality programs that really have impacts beyond a single grant life cycle. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. So how did we get here? Next slide. Our approach to developing these resources has been informed by a number of activities in the NJATAC project. If you participated in any of our surveys, our focus groups, or even some of our previous webinars, we want to thank you for your engagement and feedback on the work to help us really align the resources to the training needs and to the New Jersey ecosystem. In the first year of our work, we conducted a broad survey and a series of role-based focus groups with education and workforce practitioners to better understand and prioritize TA needs. And one of the prominent themes that really came from that assessment was a desire to better understand braided funding and alignment of education with registered apprenticeship programs. So this year, we also conducted a series of focus groups and interviews with employers to better understand their experience with the New Jersey apprenticeship system. And in that work, we identified a desire for employers to also better understand on and off ramps with apprenticeship programs and registered apprenticeship program processes. So we reviewed some existing national models and worked to adapt those and tailor those to the New Jersey apprenticeship ecosystem, really in a way that can be used for communication and training with a wide range of partners. These are tools that all of you can use to help your partners better understand the system. So in addition to the graphics we're sharing today, we have a number of webinars and tools, including some one-pagers as communication materials and a desk reference for those new to registered apprenticeship that are all available on NJCCC's NJATAC website. So with all of that background shared, I am so thrilled to really turn things over to my colleague, Amy Beller, our senior TA consultant with AIR and an expert at expanding registered apprenticeship across the country. And she's going to walk us through the pathways and braided funding graphics. So with that, I will pass to Amy.
Great. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Maria. And thank you to all of you for being here today. These two topics are two of my favorite topics to talk about. So you will hear the excitement in my voice, and I hope all of you are really excited to hear more about pathways and braided funding, because these two items can be complex, but we don't need to have them be complex. We're going to try to narrow it down to show you how easy getting into an apprenticeship program and the various different pathways and the various different ways to braid funding. So first, we're going to go into the pathways and what are the different approaches. So we've expanded our thinking. Some people think that when you get into a career, you start off at the bottom and then you just go up a ladder, and that's how you enter in a career. Well, we kind of have to change our thinking a little bit now, because our training programs must be more flexible, just like Chris mentioned in her remarks. People are changing careers, changing industries, changing their minds on where they want to go, what path they want to choose on their professional journey all the time. Sometimes those professional journeys end in degrees in colleges, or it could be that we are putting degrees with Registered Apprenticeship Program. So everything is vastly different in today's terms. We need flexibility to enter professional roles through multiple routes. There's multiple paths into a registered apprenticeship program, whether that's taking that next step after completing college or being able to upskill within your incumbent worker or within your organization. It could be that an apprentice is starting that journey after becoming a veteran. So there's a lot of different paths in the life, and flexibility is the key here that we really want to strive to explain to you. There's no single gate, there's no single door that people have to enter or exit out of. It is so flexible that there's various different options, and there's various different paths, and there's not a preferred path or a better path to come in. All paths are created equal. So apprenticeship journeys could be that choose your own adventure type of feeling because it's tailored to opportunities to meet your needs, your skill set, and your interest as your life unfolds. So let's unpack this a little bit further as we look at our college connected registered apprenticeship pathways document. So this graphic really specifies an example of all the on-roads for different populations of apprentices into the registered apprenticeship program. So all apprenticeship programs include a post-secondary credential at the end. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I wanted to highlight that the outcomes for an apprenticeship program through a post-secondary credential can either be the National Occupational Credential and the post-secondary certificate, or it could be the National Occupational Credential and a degree. That degree could be an associate's degree, it could be a bachelor's degree, it could even, in some cases, be a master's degree. So it's really awesome to have that degree program with your apprenticeship programs. So, well, let's start at our top of our graphic on the next page to really hone in on the different pathways into apprenticeship programs. So we'll start on the left and then we'll go all the way around. So the first one that we're going to look at is the first three that we're going to start off looking at are very youth focused on-ramps. And sometimes some more of the traditional ones that you might think of. So first we have that dual enrollment option with high school and the career and technical education program. So for you, all of you in the audience today that may not understand dual enrollment, that means that you are a high school student and you are taking courses at a local college. That could be a community college or it could be a four-year degree institution as well. Just all depends on how it is arranged. So with this, the pathway that is aligned, the classwork is aligned to the registered apprenticeship program. So that classwork that you're taking is directly aligned with the skills and the knowledge that you need to know within that registered apprenticeship program. In the post-secondary institutions training program, so you are going to work, or you're going to study exactly what you're learning for on your occupation. The students in this pathway are at least 16 years of age. So that is a requirement that has to happen with that dual enrollment within apprenticeship. The second part of this bubble or the second part of this pathway is that students can also enter apprenticeship after graduating high school or receiving a GED or completing adult basic education. That might be the most popular one or the most accessible one is that students are entering after they have their graduation completed. There's not an age requirement on this pathway, but some registered apprenticeship programs have a requirement for a high school diploma or the equivalency to apply and to obtain a position. And so you'll have to follow that requirement. Finally, on this part of the graphic, we have a youth or a pre-apprenticeship program, which youth apprenticeship is for individuals that are in the youth age. Sometimes 16 to 24 is that youth age that is defined. But then pre-apprenticeship could be for youth or it could be for adults depending on the program. So it's really flexible within that pathway. The pathway for the youth apprenticeship or the pre-apprenticeship experience can help students be ready for their apprenticeship by preparing them for skills, knowledge, and experiences that they'll need to be able to be successful in their apprenticeship program. It could be that they're learning some soft skills. They could be learning some specific like tape measuring skills or math skills in order for them to be ready in order to get into their apprenticeship program. Sometimes pre-apprenticeship programs have that direct entry. So if you complete a pre-apprenticeship program, you can go directly into a registered apprenticeship program. Or some are just connected to a registered apprenticeship program. That means that it's connected, like the registered apprenticeship sponsor is talking to the pre-apprenticeship program to say what skills, knowledges, and abilities they would like to have that pre-apprentice have in order to consider them for their apprenticeship program. So it all depends on how that pre-apprenticeship and youth apprenticeship program is connected. Just like I mentioned, there could be some credits that could be awarded to the apprentice for their experience, or it could be that they're just getting ready for their apprenticeship program. So there's different programs that could be arranged within that youth and pre-apprenticeship. So I'm going to share a little bit more about some adult programs, so some adult pathways. So on this screen, you will see that we have another pathway to get individuals who are career seekers. So this could be included incumbent workers. For those of you who may not know what incumbent worker means, is that you are already employed in that given sponsor or that given employer. You're already employed with them, so you're not getting hired into the program, but you're already working for them, and you'd like to actually expand your skills into a new role. And then you could also be a returning citizen. So returning citizens are individuals who have been justice involved, and being able and released and being able to get back in and make a productive or get a productive career. Apprenticeship programs also serve individuals who are unemployed or underemployed. So unemployed means that you do not have a career or a job at that time. Underemployed means that you might have the skills, knowledges, and abilities, and even credentials for a higher paying job, but you are at a lower career. And then getting into an apprenticeship program, you can just expand your skills and your horizons within a new occupation. So across this broad level, this pathway can include individuals who are looking for new jobs and who are willing to be trained. So basically, you need to have that option of having to be trained and being able to go back and learn a skill or knowledge in order to fit into this career path. This can include current staff or registered apprenticeship program sponsors as well. So returning citizens on this piece is returning citizens may have completed a registered apprenticeship program, a pre-apprenticeship program, or other work-based learning opportunities while they're incarcerated to prepare for release and return to the workforce. So there are many different states that have with what's called within the walls programs. So they basically learn a skill just like any other registered apprenticeship program, but they do it while they're incarcerated. So when they come out, they may already have a credential, or they might be just a few credits short of that credential as well. So being able to look at individuals that are returning citizens, you can definitely have a great ready-to-made career workforce at your hands. Registered apprenticeship programs are also great opportunities for individuals that are veterans or individuals that have completed their military service. These individuals may be looking for a new career or new industry after they completed their service, and they actually may come with additional skills, knowledges, and abilities that you could put into your registered apprenticeship program. So that's another great population to be thinking about and to recruit from. So now that we have a few entry points into apprenticeship programs, we're going to look at the pathways as opportunities for individuals who complete their apprenticeship programs. So as I mentioned at that first screen that I showed you, the pathways, every apprentice who completes a registered apprenticeship program will receive the National Occupational Credential. This is certified from the U.S. Department of Labor, stating that they have all the skills, knowledges, and abilities of that given occupation. It's similar to having a degree or a certificate from a four-year or a community college. This is actually a required component of a registered apprenticeship program is to receive that credential at the end. That's what sets it apart from other programs. Individuals who complete the program could also earn a post-secondary certificate as they move into their career and continue to grow professionally. Another pathway for registered apprenticeship programs for a completer is a degree, such an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or even there are some master's degrees that are out there that are baked in with a registered apprenticeship program. And that's in addition to the National Occupational Credential. So you will definitely get that National Occupational Credential along with those other degrees as well. So, just like there's no wrong door to enter an apprenticeship program, there is no wrong door to exit or to complete the program either. Regardless if you are able to receive additional degrees on top of the National Occupational Credential, you will have a rewarding career regardless of what credential or what certificate you receive. Just adding those additional credentials, just add the value to that registered apprentice and add the value and that connection to the community college system and to the four-year degree system. So we know that the pathways always end in that economic growth and mobility and advancement as well. So we're going to pause here and we're going to take a poll. And this poll is regarding the pathways that I just explained. Having looked at these pathways options, I'm really curious to see if you have heard which pathways into apprenticeship program surprised you as an option. So I want you to put into the chat the letter. So A would be if it's high school, career, technical education, dual enrollment, high school graduate, GED, certificate of adult-based education. B would be youth apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, either youth or adult. C would be career seekers, incumbent workers, returning citizens, underemployed or unemployed. D, veterans and recently discharged from military service. E, none. I know about all the pathways in the prior to this webinar. Or F, all of them. I'm new to apprenticeship. So we're going to take a second and I'm going to see. We have some E, so you knew. B, we have some pre-apprenticeship. We have some A's with the high school. Got some F's with all of them. We got some newbies. And some C's. So it's pretty much running the gamut across all of the different pathways, which is really good to hear because pathways are depending on what part of the system you're in. Pathways could be one pathway could be one that you utilize. Another pathway could be one that you haven't even thought of or been able to create those partnerships. So we'll talk a little bit later on your to-do list because I like to give people stuff to do after a webinar has completed on how to connect with those partners. So a little bit later, we'll go into that. And I'm going to pause to see if anybody has any questions over the pathways piece before we go into funding. So you can come off mute if you have a question or if you would like to put it into the chat. So I'm just going to pause for any questions that you might have.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gay Huggins-Dickey. I'm with Ocean County College, Director of Career Services. Thank you,
Hi.
guys. Thank you so much for this presenting this webinar. It's providing a lot of information, and this is something we're going into, so it's good foundation. Now, what I did not know was I was kind of familiar with most of them, but veterans not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with those who are returning citizens,
Yes.
If they don't have any training while behind the wall, how can they get involved or how would they gain access to something like this if they're not going to school or they're not doing vocational? How can you share this knowledge with them?
Yeah, so typically within each of the workforce centers, there is a reentry specialist. Do you have that at your center, Dr. Gray?
Dr. Gay, but no,
Sorry.
not that's okay. It's somebody always adds a letter. It's okay. Not I believe we do, but I'm not 100% because I'm new to the position. So I'm just trying to collect all of the information so that when I go to ask certain people, I think we do, but I'm not 100% sure.
So that is definitely the first thing that you want to see is, does your center have a reentry specialist? Those reentry specialists are your gateway of individuals that are coming out of being incarcerated in order to connect them to the community for jobs and the like. And if you do not have a reentry specialist, then you want to take a look to see who might be able to connect with that population, because that population is so incredibly important to connect with, because once they have a rewarding career and they have stability, they are able to really focus in on making sure that they are able to have a rewarding life and being able to get back to work. So we want to be able to make that connection. And regardless as if they haven't had any of the experience within the walls, they can still get into an apprenticeship program without any of that expertise. They would just have to meet the minimum requirements of the occupation. So sometimes it's 16 years of age or 18 years of age, depending on the occupation. And then there is a possibility that they have to meet that high school diploma, depending on the occupation as well. So if they don't have that high school diploma, then we can connect them with the adult basic education to get that certificate. So there's different ways that we can kind of look at that individual to help their individual journey in order for connection. Good question, but definitely want to be able to connect that reentry specialist, because that's where you can dot back the lines and create processes in order for them to reach out to individuals who are being released, because typically those reentry specialists are able to go into the correctional facilities prior to the release and talk with the individuals to see what occupations they're thinking about and even connecting before they release.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's good information. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, any other question on this section? Okay, well, if you do have any other questions on the pathways, we can add that in at the end. Now we're going to go under funding. And as we just talked about the different pathways, think about your pathways in the realistic terms of the funding opportunities that are around. So I'll kind of make those connections for you as we go over the funding as well. But I just want to have you think about the pathways and the funding really do connect, because depending on the occupations that are the populations that you serve, there could be some opportunities there as well. So registered apprenticeship continues to be a proven workforce strategy with broad federal and state support. And that support runs from investments to supporting different occupations and industries being registered. So there is a lot of support on every level. Since 2015, the U.S. Department of Labor has invested more than $1.6 billion through grants, contracts, and cooperative agreements to really help to expand, modernize, and diversify registered apprenticeship programs and the system within the United States. In New Jersey Department of Labor, or NJDOL, has invested more than $92 million through grant programs to really create and to develop work-based learning, pre-apprenticeship, and apprenticeship programs across the state. Since Governor Murphy has taken office in January of 2018, over 700 new apprenticeship programs have been created in New Jersey. That's amazing. That's over 100% increase, resulting in the onboarding of 18,000 new apprentices. Just take a look at that. That is amazing amount of apprentices and programs that are being created, and there's a lot of opportunity there. The Gains program, which in NJDOL, has proven as an unprecedented opportunity for women and people of color, with more than 2/3 participants being women or minorities. The Gains program has doubled in the amount of women that have been involved in the registered apprenticeship program throughout the state since the involvement of the Gains program. The PACE program is a pre-apprenticeship program which has funded $2 million within the state. The PACE program, with their pre-apprenticeship programs, they must have a partner that with at least one registered apprenticeship sponsor, and being able to kind of create that and expand the career pathways in industry-based training and classroom instruction, leading to better paying jobs and positions and advanced credentials. So I have to applaud the state of New Jersey. They have done a lot of great movement with the federal and state investments that they have received to really expand the opportunities, as we just talked about within the other pathways into apprenticeship. So how can funding be used to support registered apprenticeship programs? There's various different ways. I have to say up front is you have to look at every single funding opportunity to see what is required, what is allowed, what is not allowed. Because even if you have funding, even if I tell you today that it's allowed, it may not be allowed in the next grant initiative or what is going on. And also with the change of the federal environment, funding could change as well from year to year. So you want to keep involved and keep up to date on the funding. So funding for registered apprenticeship programs can be used in a variety of ways. Employers can use funding to reimburse apprentice or mentor wages, and that could be at a certain percentage or reimbursement amount. So you'll have to check to see on the given funding allotment what that wage requirement is. Funding can also be used to reimburse the cost of related training instruction. So related training instruction could include the funding for the course, paying for the courses, paying for books, or paying for associated fees that are associated with the related training instruction that's happening within the program. Funding can also be used to incentivize employers to develop new programs or to expand their current programs. This really helps to change and to diversify occupations and being able to think out of the box of the given occupations that are happening within the state of New Jersey. Funding for registered apprenticeship can also include providing supportive services to apprentices. Supportive services could include transportation, childcare, books, tools, and other services that they're able to have in order to be productive within their apprenticeship program and to be able to succeed within their program. And finally, funding for apprenticeship, for registered apprenticeship could be used to help support program administration. Program administration will be fewer and far between for grants and supports that you'll see. So you really want to dive into the funding that we provide to you to see if program administration is one of those allowable expenses. When Chris mentioned that we did an employer survey, and this was one piece of that employer survey that came back to say, we'd love to know what funding is available for program administration. So definitely take a look at what you could be using for braiding of that. So next I'm going to share our braided funding graphic to showcase examples that you can leverage across the different streams. So this is the graphic within itself, but I'm going to go into each of these independently as well. So our new funding graphic highlights the difference between funding resources that could be available to individuals and or organizations. So I'll talk to you a little bit about which one's individualized and which ones are for that organizations who are supporting apprenticeship programs to help support the apprentice or help to support the employer as well. I want you to think when you think of these, think strategically on how you're leveraging these resources to benefit either your employers that you service or the apprentices that you assist. Think who you have the relationships with and who you don't have the relationships with, or those new funding opportunities that are there. And write down the funding opportunities that you haven't heard of or that you want to expand a little bit further. So like our Pathways research, we really hope that you are able to use this tool to support your strategic thinking and to really discuss with your partners to really broaden that support and to really loop in and braid the funds together. So at the top of this document or the graphic, we have the different types of funding that can be accessed through individual or organizations to help support programs. Braiding multiple funding resources in support of registered apprenticeship program can be beneficial to both the apprentice and the employers alike. So the benefits are very great in order to use the funding together. One thing that I want to caution you though too is you want to make sure when you are braiding the funding together and you're talking with the organizations, you confirm that that funding can be braided together or used. When I say braided funding, it means using two different funding types and bringing it together, just like the braid show on the paper is like bringing those colors and weaving them together. Because some funding opportunities, they say you cannot use funding together, or funding two federal fundings together, or if you can't use the funding if you're going to pay for wages on the left-hand side for a program and wages for the right-hand side of the program. You really have to make sure that you are discussing with the other organizations when you're going out for funding what funding you're going to braid together, and be honest about it, to make sure that there's no problems that happen. So let's get into the students and apprenticeship funding opportunities. So there is a variety of options that can help to assist the apprentices through their program. So some examples include Pell Grants, WIOA training funds, and that could be a variety of training funds. I'm talking about the different titles here. So Title I, Title II, 3, and 4. I'm also talking about incumbent worker funds that could be utilized here. So there's a lot of WIOA funds that can be accessed for apprenticeship, and there's different requirements and everything for each of those. Post 9/11 GI Bill and veterans benefits can be used, and SNAP employment and training benefits can also be used underneath this for apprentices. These funding streams that I just mentioned, it's individualized basis for apprentices. So there's a unique application that the apprentice has to apply, and they have to be able to be deemed as acceptable, or that they are able to get those benefits. So it's on the apprentice. It's not on the employer to apply. It's on for that apprentice to apply, and the eligibility requirements for that apprentice must be satisfied. A variety of these funding resources can be braided together. So WIOA could be braided together with the Montgomery GI Bill, or the post 9/11 GI Bill. It can also be funded together within the Pell Grants. So any of those can be braided together if they are funding different parts of the apprenticeship program, not the same cost. Apprentice funds can be used for tuition, for fees, books, housing. Housing comes for that post 9/11 GI Bill benefit, wage reimbursement, and more, depending on the types of funding that is issued. So again, with the apprentice, that is for the apprentice, and some requirements you have to fulfill for the apprentice that they can't be hired before they get the funding. So you really want to take a look to see what the requirements are. If they have to be able to be eligible prior to your job offer, or if they can get the funding opportunities after that job offer is provided. Next, we're going to go into the post-secondary institutions for their funding options. So there is a lot of federal and state funds that can be used for post-secondary institutions to help pay for the cost of developing or administering the apprenticeship program. These funds might include the institutional scholarships with grants, and state and federal funded tax credits. Grants administered by the by the New Jersey Department of Labor are available to help support apprenticeship programs as well. Federal grants could also be available from time to time to help support building and expanding apprenticeship programs. And that could be competitive grants that you can find on apprenticeship.gov as well. So on the next slide, we'll talk about labor union funding. So for some industries, there are labor unions that may collect funds to disperse through training funds and scholarships for current apprentices. These funds may cover tuition, as well as supportive services like transportation, childcare, subsidies, or even tools for their apprenticeship program. And even, I would go even farther to say even boots and safety glasses and safety clothing can also be covered as well to help with the apprenticeship program for them to help to complete. On the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about employer funding options. So state and federal funding sources are also available to help directly with employers to be reimbursed for tuition or the wages of apprentices and mentors. For the apprentice wages, funding may be used to pay up to 50% of the rate that's being paid, and mentor wages reimbursement can also be used, and could actually be dependent on the funding that you use on the amount that they pay back for mentor wages. So looking at the benefits all these funding being able to be braided together have benefits for the apprentice and the employer. Um, when we look at the benefits for the apprentices, apprentices can assess the support that they need to successfully complete their apprenticeship program with so they don't have to pay for the tuition, the supplies, and the wraparound services. We know through different return on investment studies that if apprentices are supported through wraparound services or tuition and related training instruction, they're more apt to complete their programs rather than individuals that have to figure out how to pay for everything themselves and be able to still work and earn at the same time. Employers are able to strengthen their productivity by having skilled workforce with training that can be really customized to their unique needs. Employers can also assess the New Jersey apprenticeship tax credit as well. That is another big benefit in order for them to really create the program and to support their registered apprenticeship program. So as I shared, we're going to do a little bit of a chat function now here again. We shared more about the braiding funding across various audiences that can engage partners and participants in the Registered Apprenticeship Program. I'd like for you to add in the chat which audience are you most interested in learning more about braided funding to support your Registered Apprenticeship sponsors. So are you looking at students and apprentices for letter A? The post-secondary institutions for B, C with labor unions, D employers, or E all the above. So put it into the chat and let me know why. I'm seeing some students and employers. I may have missed this, but we'll talk more about the questions here in a second. E with all the above, E all the above. Hey, it looks like you're really interested in all of them looking at the funding along with some employers as well. Keep coming into the chat with your responses. Okay. Well, we're gonna pause here and do some questions. Chris, I know that we have some questions in the chat. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the questions that we have coming in?
Yep, the first question was around specifying the source of funding for mentor wages.
Yeah. So with mentor wages, there are some state apprenticeship expansion grants that could be used for mentor wages. You have to talk with the New Jersey Department of Labor on their PACE and their gains grants to see if that is allowable expenses. On the WIOA funding, there is some possibilities of using WIOA, the 4 titles for mentor wages as well, depending on what your state's WIOA policy states.
Great, thanks, Amy. The next question is around employer sponsor criteria.
Okay.
So I will note that we do have recordings, a series of recordings all about registered apprenticeship. So if you're new to the space, please check out the NJCCC website for those prior recordings. But the question is, I may have missed this, but what criteria must the employer meet to become a sponsor?
So in order to if we reel back the thing, back to becoming a sponsor, you have to employ the apprentice. So, and if you want to be a sponsor yourself, so you have to employ the apprentice, you have to be able to provide on-the-job training. And that is a certain amount of hours for the occupation that you're registering. And we can go into those specifics for the occupations when you meet with either NJDOL or the U.S. Department of Labor. The related training instruction, you have to be able to provide that coursework. And that coursework is 144 hours per year of your registered apprenticeship program. And we'd be able to talk to you about the classes and how to connect with that. You actually have to be able to provide a mentor. That mentor does not have to be the same person throughout the program, but that mentor has to be there. It's a one-to-one mentor that is provided. So that mentor teaches the apprentice and is able to connect with that apprentice the skills that they need on the job. There also is some quality. You want to make sure that the quality is there with that mentorship. And then at the end of the apprenticeship program is that ending in that national occupational credential. So those are just the requirements. We can go through a little bit more of the requirements of the employer on what the paperwork requirement is and like the administration and the documentation when you meet. But that's just the very high level to start a registered apprenticeship program. Chris, did we have any other questions in this section?
Those are all of the questions at the moment. We do have a comment from Michael Blatt. The apprentice will need to be a W-2 employee. The sponsor does not need to offer in-house RTI. Approved external RTI is acceptable. Michael, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think Michael added some really great ideas.
I think he was just unmuting himself.
Oh,
So there
good.
you, Michael, did you want to jump in? You're muted.
God, there we go.
There we go, Greg.
Good to see everyone. If anybody's interested, please, my office is always here to provide technical assistance to potential sponsors. Please reach out to my office and I will assign an ATR to provide that technical assistance to you as we move forward.
Thanks, Michael. And for anyone that doesn't know, Michael is with the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship, and he is the head for the state of New Jersey. Thanks so much, Michael. I think those are all of the questions we have at the moment.
Wait, someone's got their hand up.
Okay.
You want to unmute and jump,
Yes.
ask your question? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miss Wade. I'm sorry, I hear myself in the echo. Hi, my name is Miss Wade. I'm an employment counselor at one of the One-Stop Career Centers, and I had a question as regarding for apprenticeship. So the only resource I am aware of is the apprenticeship website. So how do you include funding if I just direct my customers saying, hey, I know there's an apprenticeship website and they apply on their own? What if they want funding as far as transportation, childcare, books? Where do I go from there?
So the best thing in order to connect the apprentice with funding is to be able to create from this graphic that we have shared, go on to the students. Rhiannon, if you want to go back to the students piece. So these pieces right here that we have mentioned, the FAFSA with the Pell Grants and loans, the WIOA training, what I would do is take these one by one and write out for the students where to go. So the FAFSA, if you're at a local, you said you were at the local one stop, is that right, Ms. Wade?
I'm at Essex County One-Stop Career Center.
Okay, so then what you'd want to do is be able to talk to them about where to go to fill out their FAFSA form online, and if you have resources there to help them complete, or you can refer them. Maria, do you guys with the NJCCC, do you help with FAFSA completion?
The individual colleges would have financial aid counselors who would help with that. And we're happy to share some information on that. The state's Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, HESA, also does financial aid workshops in the communities. And some, of course, the high schools will also have guidance counselors who can help. But we're happy to put some information together on this. And I see from Michael Blatt that USDOL office can assist as well.
Yep. So what I would do is take this step by step from this and write down where to go and how to help. And the U.S. Department of Labor can help, but then also being able to, on your WIOA, you would know exactly on those training funds to how they apply, when to apply that information, because that's going to be very, very helpful for the apprentice, because those are the ones they have to do prior to being hired. And that is very, very important because you don't want to miss out on the additional services that can be provided under WIOA because they get their apprenticeship opportunity before they are registered, before they get their application in. And that's the same thing, I believe, on SNAP ENT as well.
Okay, so just to clarify, if I had a customer and they wanted to receive funding but also get this apprenticeship, so like right now I'm close to Newark. they see pharmacy tech at Walgreens, I will refer them to WIOA, and
Mhm.
then maybe they'll see if they're eligible to receive that grant, and then they apply for that pharmacy tech position. But there's a chance they still might not get that apprenticeship because it's a competitive role,
Correct.
correct?
Correct. It's a job. So anytime that you apply for apprenticeship, you're applying for a job or a career. And so the employer has to select you based upon the individuals that are applying for that position as well. But the added benefit within apprenticeship is you don't have to have all the skills, knowledge, and abilities that an individual of medical assistant full medical assistant would have. For apprentice, you can be can based upon your skill, your ability to do the job, or your potential to do the job. So the HR requirements aren't going to say, "Oh, do you have your credential within the medical assistant? You don't have your certificate yet. Okay, then you can definitely come into this apprenticeship program." But you still have to do the interview process and be hired into that position. But I would definitely say that WIOA is your first step of the student or the apprentice side to get them aligned and to get them applying for those positions for those applications to see what they would be able to be accessible and getting in order to put towards their apprenticeship program.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we're gonna hit some next steps. So just like I mentioned, I like to give you a to-do. So if we want to move one more, yep, there we go. So we want you to invite to think about what your next steps. I always like to write down 2 to 3 things that I want to commit to after hearing a webinar. So think about what you want to do for your next 2 to 3 steps. In terms of the pathways, perhaps there's a specific pathway that we shared that you'd like to think more about. Maybe it's one of those that you entered into the poll saying, I wanted to learn more about the student's pathway. Maybe it's more about the learning about how to do with the veterans or the incarcerated individuals. Perhaps you can use these tools in your partnership discussions. So, of the pathways that you want to learn more about, maybe you can connect with the partners within your community or research the partners within your community to be connected with in order to move your work forward. If you get stuck, reach out. Talk with us at ATAC to see what we can do to kind of connect you with those partners. It may also be helpful to analyze the quality and the effectiveness of your current pathway. So looking at where you're recruiting for your registered apprenticeship programs, which ones are ending in the completion? Which ones are ending in your cancelization? Is there a connection? And if that is a connection, then think about how you can strengthen that pathway into your apprenticeship program. Regarding the funding, you may want to learn about new resources that you'd like to explore. Perhaps having a conversation or two with the new funding organizations that have those fundings. So you would want to be able to think about when to apply, when is the right time, how do they apply, where can they go? Learning that information so you can help share with your audience or share with your apprentice or your employer would be very, very helpful. So think about your next step. I'm going to give you just a minute to write down your next 2 to 3 steps that you'd like to take from this webinar. So I'm going to pause. Okay. Well, I hope you wrote down your steps, and if you write down your steps, you're more apt to do those steps. So that's why I have that exercise in. Okay, on the next slide, we have a lot of different resources that you can use. These resources are the U.S. Department of Labor, along with New Jersey's different resources. Please look at these resources and utilize them. Some have the tax credit and the tuition assistance, so that's within the U.S. Department of Labor. One is the WIOA website. Then there's Career Seekers with Barriers to Employment. So that's another specialized piece of the apprenticeship.gov website. On the right-hand side, there's NJDOL, the competitive grant announcements. So thinking about the funding within the state. There's also the apprenticeship tax credit within New Jersey. And then there is additional information from the Registered Apprenticeship Academy. So this is the U.S. Department of Labor. They have a Registered Apprenticeship Academy that gives additional training and learning options for sponsors and the like. And the whole entire apprenticeship system can use this. And there's one on for registered apprenticeship sponsors, and there's also the DOL funded investment partners. So you can learn through the Academy some additional information on these topics. So I want to say thank you so much for coming in today and taking this hour to learn about pathways and funding. Know that there's tons of resources out there to help you along the way. Your partners at NJDOL and U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship in New Jersey are always there to provide technical assistance on pathways and funding. You do not have to go it alone. And we know that these two options or these two items are a little confusing, but we hope that this information that we provided today gives a little bit more clarity and information to you. So thank you so much for joining today, and we look forward to seeing you into the future. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.